Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. In this webinar, we will talk about DevOps and ITIL 4 compete or complement. My name is Coco Lee. I am the marketing manager of DASA. I will be your host and moderator of today's webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the question text box on the right side of your screen, or put them in Twitter and use the hashtag DASAChat. We will follow them up.
I'm so pleased to be joined by Jorge Blanco, our DASA ambassador. Hi, Jorge. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, Coco. Thank you for inviting me.
Would you please take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending this webinar. My name is Jorge Blanco. I'm the managing director of Gloomy Networks. We're a company specialized in best practices, most of them IT best practices, also knowledge management and business simulations. I'm also the DASA Ambassador for Mexico. I have over 34 years experience in IT. Even my background is in engineering. I hold two degrees, two graduate degrees in business, and I hold several postgraduate diplomas like in teaching skills and also innovation and design thinking. I hold several certifications in frameworks and best practices, obviously DASA DevOps, 20 certifications in ITIL, and other certifications in Lean IT, Helpdesk Institute, Scrum. Okay, I've been involved with best practices since about 15 years ago, which they started to revamp and get more attraction, get more traction in the market. Okay, I will start talking about DevOps.
Thank you, Jorge. For those of you who join us for the first time, let me do a quick introduction. DASA is an open source association that has built a competence model and accreditation scheme for DevOps training and certification. We are an open and independent association that is working with more than 300 partners that include training and consulting companies, corporates, ambassadors, and content development teams. Organizations use the DASA model and instrument and work together further in enhancing this instrument to support DevOps journeys of organization. Hi, Jorge. I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Coco. In this webinar, we will be doing a brief introduction to DASA DevOps, a brief introduction to ITIL 4, and we will talk about what they have in common, what are the challenges to adoption, and then at the end, you may send your questions that we will answer later in our social networks. Okay, let's start with the introduction to DASA DevOps. Okay, so that DevOps is not a thing, it's not a product, neither a standard or a specification, framework, or job title. So what DASA believe DevOps is about experiences and culture, the close communication and collaboration between IT operations and development, and how they can improve the products and services that they produce by thinking differently about they work together, how they work together. So it is very important to emphasize that it's more a cultural and operational approach. It's not a framework, because sometimes it is compared with ITIL, but ITIL, it is a framework, but DevOps, it isn't a framework. It's a cultural approach that it's how it's very hard to adopt because people buy the tools and put the teams together and they want the magic to happen, and that's something that will never happen unless you change the culture, unless you change the way the leadership is done in the organization. Okay, next one, please. Okay, so those are the DASA principles that drive the culture and leadership. The one is customer-centric action, in which we need to have the courage to act and innovate. We need to have the courage to make mistakes and learn from them. The number two is create with the end in mind. That's a product and service thinking. So instead of the thinking in other stuff, we need to focus in product and service thinking. The engineering mindset, that means that everybody needs to have skills to solve problems. So that comes from lean approach, in which everybody who solves a problem is called an engineer, even though that person doesn't hold an engineering degree. And the key there is collaboration. The number three is end-to-end responsibility. That means that you need to lead your accountability, and the product or service is taken care of from concept on to grade. That means from end to end, and we need to support the performance of those products and services from end to end. There is no disruption between, or there is no cut between development and operations anymore. Number four is cross-functional autonomous teams. That means that the people should have a T-shaped profile. That means that they need to have a deep knowledge in the specific area and a medium level knowledge in one or two more topics or knowledge areas. That way the teams are resilient, and because they have complementary skills. Number five is continuous improvement. That means that you need to be learning all the time. That the mantra is, if it hurts, do it more often. So you need to experiment and fail fast in order to move on. And number six is about automate everything you can. That means that you reduce to a minimum the human intervention in order to enhance quality, avoid errors, and put more velocity on that. That in order to maximize the flow. Next one. So DASA has a competence model in which there are 4 skill areas and 8 knowledge areas, and it is necessary that the teams, in order to be successful, they have the 12 competences in the team. So the people in different roles holding different of it, or have be more proficient in the different knowledge areas and skills. So that's what DASA proposes for their approach as the competence model. Next one. So the values for DevOps are called with an acronym that CALMS. That means the culture, automation, lean, measurement, and sharing, especially sharing knowledge. It is very important because if we consider those values around, also complemented with the core principles, we can guide or drive the culture and the leadership around DevOps, because the people, the organizations lose the focus, and they devote more time and more resources to the tools, to the implementation of the tools. So all the exterior part, not the cultural, which is the heart. Okay, next one. The 3 ways, which are the principles underpinning DevOps, that were stated by Patrick Debois, the one of which is called the father of DevOps, by over 10 years ago. So the first way is about the systemic thinking in order to maintain the flow. So no optimization, no local optimization should be on top of the system optimization. So because we can undermine the whole system performance if we do local optimization. That's why we need to have systemic thinking in order to maintaining the flow all the time. The second way is high feedback loop. That means every step should have a feedback in order to improve, in order to know the changes in the market, the changes in customer needs, customer value. And the third one is the learning culture and experimentation. That means that we need to fail often, and learn from there in order to move on. So those are the three principles underpinning DevOps. Okay, next one. DASA, according to the competence model, offers a certification scheme that starts with DevOps fundamentals. Then there is a professional level, in which there are three certification courses, which is Enable and Scale, Specify and Verify is the next one, and Create and Deliver is the other one. So those three professional courses are specializing or focusing on the 12 competences. For example, the 4 skills are in Enable and Scale, and the Specify and Verify has the other 4 of the competences, which are the knowledge areas, like business value optimization, business analysis, test specification, and architecture and design. And the Create and Deliver has the programming, continuous delivery, security, risk and compliance, and infrastructure engineering. And the upper level is the leadership level, which has the DevOps product owner, DevOps leader, and the DevOps coach. From the 7 courses, the ones available right now are the fundamentals, Enable and Scale, and the product owner. By the end of this year, the coach and the Create and Deliver are going to be available, and next year, the leader and Specify and Verify. So there is a very comprehensive portfolio in order to help professionals to be proficient and to have all the skills and the knowledge area covered needed to do the journey in DevOps. Next one, please. Okay, let's go with ITIL 4. There are 7 guiding principles. ITIL is the most adopted ITSM framework in the world. It has over it has about 30 years in the market compared to DevOps, which has about 10 years only. And those are the 7 principles: focus on values, start where you are, progress iteratively with feedback, collaborate and promote visibility, think and work holistically, keep it simple and practical, and optimize and automate. We will talk later that there are some overlap with the principles of DevOps. Next, please. Okay, there are 4 dimensions that are like the pillars for ITIL, which are organizations and people, information and technology, partners and suppliers, and value streams and processes. Those 4 dimensions need to be considered equally, and they have overlaps within them, amongst them, and that's the foundation for ITIL 4. You need to, everything you do in ITIL 4 need to be aligned with the 4 dimensions in order to avoid any misalignment, like the 4 legs of a chair, or the 4 legs of a table. If you have one shorter, the table will fall. So that you need to take care of the 4 dimensions in equilibrium. Next one. So the structure ITIL 4 is based on the service value system, and the core of the service value system is the service value chain. The service value system, as their name stated, it's a system with all the elements necessary to deliver value, from the opportunity and demand up to the value. So those are like the layers of an onion, that with the guiding principles and continual improvement, the external layer, Then governance and practices, and the core, the kernel, is the service value chain, which is the operations model with all the needed activities that are orchestrated in value streams in order to deliver the value for the customer. So there is a big change in ITIL 4 because there is no service lifecycle anymore. That was the concept used with ITIL version 3. Okay, so those activities on the right, which are part of the service value chain, are like the instruments in an orchestra, and the way you coordinate the instruments aided with what are called now the practices, not processes anymore. So the practices, which now there are 34 instead of 26, and the processes with their alignment to the 4 dimensions and aided with the 34 practices are the way that orchestra plays the value streams in order to deliver value to the customers. So the value streams, that's taken from Lean. Okay, next one, please. So those are the ITIL management practices divided in 3 categories: general management, service management, and technical management. You will see that there are 9 new, and several of them were split, like release and deployment split in 2, configuration and asset management divided in 2. So, and there are new ones like risk management, workforce and talent management. You can check that later. Those are the 34 practices, which are processes aligned to the 4 dimensions and aided with, and supporting the activities of the value chain in order to deliver value. Next one. That's the certification scheme for ITIL 4. That's the foundation. 2 tracks, which is managing professional and strategic leader. There is a common ITIL strategies course between those 2 tracks. Once you complete the managing professional, if you add also the IT leader course, you'll have the other certificate like the strategic leader, ITIL strategic leader. So both managing professional and strategic leader make you qualified to get the ITIL master, which is not defined yet. That's it for ITIL. Now let's see what they have in common. Please, next one. Okay, they share many aspects because they are both inspired in Agile and Lean. So that's what makes them very compatible, very aligned to each other. Even one is an approach, a cultural thing like DevOps, operational and cultural model, and the other is a framework. Okay, DevOps core principles and ITIL 4 guiding principles. ITIL 4 7 guiding principles. Sorry for the reading, it's confusing because I'm talking ITIL 4 and there are several guiding principles and 6 core principles in DevOps. They have several in common, like the automation, like you can check them, and there is an overlap of them. They are rearranged differently, but in the essence, they are very close to each other. And the DevOps values, which is the part of the CALMS acronym, and the ITIL 4 dimensions, they are very, very close. For example, the organization and people resembles the culture of the CALMS. Information and technology is very well aligned to automation. The partners and suppliers to sharing and culture, and value streams and processes is aligned to the Lean and measurement. So, and the DevOps 3 ways, an ITIL 4 service value system, they are also aligned because we can see that the 3 ways can be related to all the parts of the service value system, like the governance, the guiding principles, the continual improvement, the practices. So because as they are both aligned to lean and agile, we can see in both value streams with the end-to-end in mind in order to deliver customer value. The value co-creation, so we need to create value with the customer, considering always the customer. So there is no way to you tell me what you need and I will deliver. So we need to both co-create value. The continual improvement, which is part of the essence of both. So everything needs to be done as a journey to the perfection, but the perfection never arrives because all the time we have a current state plus an ideal state that we need to get to. We need to arrive there, and that's the current situation, and we need to find how to improve that. So we never end in the chase to perfection. So the culture and leadership, that is very important because both fail if they are not centered in the change in the culture and the way the leadership is done. The optimization, in which we need to eliminate the waste. We need to do that right since the first time because we want to avoid reworks, which is a waste. The automation, in which we want to eliminate as much as possible the human intervention in order to put humans to do more valuable things for the customer and avoid the routinary tasks which are prone to mistakes and which have a limitation according to the working hours and according to the capabilities of people. So if we put automation, we can do what we are doing previously optimized. We can do that very fast without any shifts, without any interruption. And the working iterations, that means that we need to divide the work into smaller chunks, smaller pieces, in order to go from point A to point B in order to deliver value. And every piece or every minimum viable or minimum shippable product should be complete in value for the customer. The visualization, it is used in both because the visualization helps us to prioritize the work, to have everything visible, to promote transparency and promote trust in both approaches, in both ITIL4 and DevOps. The visualization is very important in order to have the teams to work inside the team and to coordinate with other teams. And something that is very important is the team-based work. So it's not centered on the individual, it is centered around the teams working together with common goals aligned to the organization goals. That's what they share in common. That's everybody welcomes ITIL4 even after 13 years with the same approach. They finally arrive, and now we can easily work together with DevOps and other approaches like Lean to deliver value to the customer. So all of them integrated with a common objective, which is deliver value. Next one, please. What are the challenges that we see? Okay, organizations say that they are doing DevOps because they do continuous delivery. That's what I've seen everywhere in conferences, symposiums. They talk that they are doing DevOps because they are doing continuous delivery and that's it. Or because they use a Scrum, because they say, oh, DevOps is a Scrum. No. DevOps uses a Scrum as a tool because a Scrum is an agile method. So, but that doesn't mean that they are already doing DevOps. They are not considering the whole end-to-end, the whole concept to grade. They are just doing very fast delivery, and they are just throwing away their deliverables to the operation, like they are, which builds the wall of confusion between development and operations. Organizations are not adding service support to the equation. For it, you can see that in the waterfall, You have the whole definition of for a big bank, for a big project. In Agile, as an improvement, you have small deliveries, but you end with the delivery to the operations department or the operations team, and they become the bottleneck. So according to the theory of restrictions, you cannot improve before the bottleneck because you will put the bottleneck in a worse situation. You cannot improve, or you shouldn't improve after the bottleneck because you won't see the optimization, because the bottleneck is the one that it's stopping the flow. So you need to improve exactly on the bottleneck. In this case, we need to improve the operation in order to be more agile, to be leaner, and to work together with DevOps, with development, sorry, or projects team working in the same team together with a common objective. That's why DevOps has an infinite loop. Organizations want DevOps tools to do the miracle. I have talked many times with tool vendors in which they are very concerned that customers buy their tools, they try to implement them without doing organizational change management. So they try to implement the tools, and several months or years later, they discard the tool and start with another vendor with a different tool, blaming the former vendor as the guilty one of the failure, because they don't realize that they need to do a cultural change, a change in the leadership of the organization. That's why it is very important to start doing the pilot with isolated teams from the traditional way of working, because you cannot do just the tool implementation and wait for the tool to do everything like a miracle. That's why many adoptions fail, and now the tool vendors are concerned about that. So they know their tools very well, but most of the time they don't know how to help the company to in the journey to do the transformation into a DevOps organization, using having the cultural leadership as the key success factor. Okay, I don't know if you have any questions you want to send, but you need to keep in mind that DevOps is a change of mind. When you change, it is a cultural stuff, so you need to change your mind to change the way you think in order to behave differently. So here is an example to show how the development team works. You can see the backlog on the left, and the DevOps team need to consider also incidents, service requests, and all the operation stuff. That means upgrades, even the training, everything needs to be considered in the product backlog. So the backlog needs to grow to cover everything needed in the operation part. In order to have the infinite loop, instead of just doing the plan code, build and test, you need to add the release, deploy, operate, and monitor, and start over again. So it's an infinite loop, not the half of the 8 shape figure, just doing the left side, which is what the Scrum teams are doing very, very efficiently, and they are just throwing more stuff to the operations team, and the problem is growing because the bottleneck is becoming the restrictions and the bottleneck are becoming more serious or more hard to solve, and that way the technical debt will increase indefinitely until we solve that, tackling the root cause, which is not working together as part of the same team. That's something in one slide to reflect what's the different approach that many organizations are not understanding. Okay, so that's it for today. So I wanted to be brief in order to show what both are proposing, DevOps and ITIL 4, what they share in common, and what are the challenges that both are facing, mostly DevOps, because ITIL has almost 30 years in the market, and DevOps is gaining momentum. It's growing very fast, the adoption, but we need to have more success stories and not failure stories, because of not considering that it's more a cultural stuff. As Coco said, you can submit your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I saw some questions in the question text box. We will follow them up as soon as possible. Let me take this opportunity to thank you, Jorge, for joining me today. Thank you so much, Jorge, to being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
And of course, thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today in this webinar. Have a great day. Bye for now.